Cascade Hoops Talk, Billy D here. Hey, if you're an NAI basketball fan, and obviously you are if you're listening to this show, I want to tell you some of the things Cascade Hoops Talk offers. Obviously, you can get the podcast anywhere podcasts are available, Cascade Hoops Talk. Go to Twitter at Cascade Hoop Talk. Also, go to Facebook at Cascade Hoops Talk. You can also get all the interviews on YouTube at Cascade Hoops Talk. And the YouTube platform, please subscribe. Having that platform and the shows over there gives us some more flexibility down the road if there's other things we'd like to do. Also, and this is very important, go to CascadeHoopsTalk.com, CascadeHoopsTalk.com. And once the season starts, every morning you can open that up and you can get all the game stories and NAI basketball news from the night before. It's tabbed by conference and top 25. So if you're just interested in, say, your conference and the top 25, click those tabs, see who won, what the stories were, and that's available to you every day. Also, there's a place on the web page where you can sign up for the newsletter, and you don't have to sign in. It comes directly to your email. So here at Cascade Hoops Talk, we're here to be your NAI men's basketball news source. And please go to our Twitter and let me know if there's anything else you would like to see or something different or something you'd like to see improved. I love hearing from you. Thanks. I hope you enjoy today's show. Cascade Hoops Talk, Billy D here. Join us on Twitter at Cascade Hoop Talk. Hey, today we have Coach Justin Parnell, head coach of the Oregon Tech Hustlin Owls. That's a program I've followed for over 50 years, and my family has supported and followed this program for 4 generations. Coach Parnell's entering his 5th year, following one of the greatest coaches in college basketball history, Danny Miles. You know, Coach Parnell, though, has done pretty well in his own right. He's amassed a one-loss record of 136. He's garnered 4 national tournament bids, 1 Cascade Conference title, and finished as national runner-up in the 2018-19 season. Welcome, Coach Parnell. I appreciate you being on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Bill. And, I really enjoyed doing this last year. And, obviously you and I have a different relationship than probably a lot of the coaches you interview. But, I appreciate you being a great fan and supporter and this great thing you've done for NAI basketball and kind of giving it a voice. We appreciate it.
Well, I appreciate those words. And, everybody knows I don't hide the fact I'm an Oregon. It'd be pretty hard for me to hide the fact I was an Oregon Tech fan, but I just love small college basketball.
That's something you don't want to hide.
Yeah, I'm not too hard to pick out in a crowd. So, hey, Coach, first thing I want to talk about is you went over to Ashland last year, really important playoff game, a great Southern Oregon team, boy, really good Southern Oregon team. You won that playoff game, and that's the most important thing. But you also, in the process, got your 100th victory. Talk about that milestone, what it meant to you and your guys, and then the fact that you could get it at Southern Oregon.
Yeah, it was a really special night. You said it right. I mean, it was a big playoff game, semifinal game. It was a great crowd. That gym was packed, and we brought about half of the fans over, and so that part of it was really important, and to come out of there with a victory, especially after losing there earlier in the year at the last second, was definitely a good feeling. And it was my 100th win, here, and that's always special. But it was also the 100th win for that freshman class that we all kind of came in together, and it was a night where everything kind of culminated, and there was a lot of different aspects to it. You're playing against your rival, who's really good, really well coached. It's a semifinal Cascade Conference game. But the thing that was probably the best was that we were finally getting back to being healthy again. And, we didn't have Kyson Faust or Kellen Gehrig. They were still out. But the fact that Seth and Ty were able to come back, and it was like one of the first games we had everybody kind of back and rolling. And just a special night over there, and one that, I won't forget for a long time.
You probably didn't notice because your head's so far in the game, but when the teams took the court and got ready for, the jump ball to start the game, everybody in the gym was on their feet. It was pretty much equally split between Oregon Tech and Southern Oregon. one of the most electric atmospheres I've ever been to a ball game in. I mean, do you remember anything about that?
Yeah, after, especially when we're on the road, after we and our starting lineups announced, I usually go out there and talk with our 5 starters a little bit, and while the other team's getting introduced, that way they're not sitting up there, out there, 5 guys on their own. And so we were kind of getting our thoughts together, and after Southern was introduced, and I started headed back to the bench. I remember that, where I don't know which side of the crowd started at first, but one side was chanting SOU, the other chanting OIT, and it was loud. And I could see some of the smiles on some of the players' faces, and that's really, you play the game for a lot of different reasons, and everybody has their why and why they're out there. But when you're a young kid and thinking about playing, big college basketball, and you're not playing in an empty arena or a quiet gym, you're playing in front of a packed house, and that was really neat for the guys, and that atmosphere. That was the whole game. It was pretty wild, but I do remember that was a pretty special moment.
And we can't talk about that without giving a shout out to the folks at Southern Oregon. They were fantastic hosts. They have a beautiful facility over there, and they made sure all the Oregon Tech fans could get in. And but they really need a great shout out, because they were fantastic hosts that night. You touched.
We don't want to give the Raiders too much credit, though. But no, they did do a great job. They are a class act. As much as they're our rival, and I don't let my young kids wear red ever. It's kind of a joke. We have a lot of respect for them, and they're a class act over there.
I grew up with that rivalry, so I'll just stop there. Last season, you touched on it. It started with so much excitement, ranked number 1 in the country. You returned essentially the entire runner-up squad, playing great basketball. And then just as the conference season started, the injuries just came one after actually you had one before the season started with Kellen Gehrig, but after the conference season started, you lost and these were key guys. Can you talk about that stretch that it just seemed like one injury right after the other, and serious injuries?
Yeah, that's the thing is, you go through a year, you're going to have some injuries, rolled ankles, you get tweaked knee, something like that. And those are the type of things, you miss a guy for a couple games and you can handle it. And for us, to start off the year, I believe we were like 11-0 or 12-0, and we were number 1 in the country, and things were really rolling for us. And the first injury we had was Kellen Gehrig broke his foot in the first game of the year. So against Northwest Indian College, I think in the first 3 or 4 minutes, he came down and broke his foot, and so we didn't have him. But Kellen's a great player, but that was a position we were pretty deep at, and we thought that we could handle that, and Kellen redshirting wouldn't be the worst thing. And then a couple games into conference, Kyson Faust dislocated his shoulder at Multnomah, and he was just really starting to play well. He had, I think, 23 or 24 a couple nights before against Eastern Oregon, and starting to play good basketball, and he tore his labrum, so he was out for the season and had to get surgery. So we were down another wing, and at the same time, we thought we're still really deep at that position. We have great depth. We may not rebound it as well, or we may not quite be as good defensively, but we're still going to be pretty darn good. And then it really started to hit. Ty Heeb tore ligaments in his thumb, and essentially the doctor told us he was out for the season. And then 2 nights later, against Corbin, Seth Erickson broke his hand. So all of a sudden, four of our top probably 6 scorers, 7 scorers are out, and we're kind of looking at some guys that necessarily weren't ready to play, it's not, they're just young and they needed more time. And I remember going into a game at College of Idaho where we had 7 guys, and trying to play the way we want to play, which is fast, has made it a little bit difficult. But there's a lot of things that came out of that were positives, and it's easier to say now than when we were going through it. But some guys got minutes that necessarily weren't expecting them. I think we got to see a greatness of Mitchell Fink, where I think at one point those guys were out for 11 games because we ended up getting Seth and Ty back at the end of the year, and we went 8-3, and I think Mitch must average mid-30s and kind of carried us through that. We had a lot of guys. We had a ton of guys step up, and you and I talked about this earlier, Bill. When adversity hits, you really see the true side of who you are as a coach and who your players are. And I remember we just never blinked, and that was our motto going in: is, hey, we're not going to blink. Have some things happen to us that are unfortunate. They have, but nobody else in the league feels sorry for us. And so we went out. We changed our offense a little bit. We started playing a little bit more zone to keep us out of foul trouble. And I think what we did going into the year, there's just so many expectations and pressures of, trying to get back to that national championship game when you have everybody back. And I think we got to a point where we were playing as players and coaching. All we cared about was winning. And I remember some wins we had in the preseason where, it was a 20 or 25-point win, and we weren't happy with it. And looking back, I think we did a little bit more damage than good. And when those injuries hit, it was almost like the first time we approached every day as, hey, we're just going to get better. We're going to coach to get better. And how are we going to do that? And that was a huge, positive for me and the coaching staff where, we look a little, self-reflection and go, hey, we can do a better job. And we're going to coach now to get better. We have to get a little bit better. We got to change things where we can find a little bit of an edge that on our opponent, and maybe we're only playing 6 guys or 7 guys, but we're going to stop running the floor, running the lanes and pushing the ball. We're going to walk it up. We're going to play in the half court a little bit more. Defensively, we can't foul as much, so we're going to sit back in a zone and give up some things that we necessarily wouldn't give up. And looking back, just there's so many positives of what our guys did, the way they came together, the way our leaders stepped up and didn't allow us to panic or didn't allow us to sulk. And we went 11-3, and then we started to get some guys back. We got Tyhee back against Southern Oregon late in the year when we beat them here, and then we got Seth Erickson back a couple weeks later with his hand all wrapped up. And I think we won 7 straight there at the end of the season when we got them back, and then lost in that conference championship game at College of Idaho where our guys just played excellent. So it was quite the year. We didn't draw it up that way, but in the end, we were number 7 going into the tournament, and I think we had as good a chance as anybody.
I agree with everything you said, and I looked at it, I think the same, and I thought that the injuries made the team hungrier, where before it was just expected when you took the court that you were going to win because you had so many weapons if one was off the other. But I think the team got tighter. And I think they definitely were hungrier.
Oh, there's no doubt. And, they had to fight. I think when it all happened, one of the things we talked about a lot as well was that, hey, there's going to be some point in your life where you're going to be better off for what we're going through. And it's probably a little bit hard to see right now. But I think it was spot on because we're all better off for going through it. The coaching staff, I think, we're a little bit better coaches after going through that. I think some guys got a lot of time. Matt Van Tassel got time that he probably deserved. Kyle Hadwick got a little more time than he probably thought he was going to get. And then Jordan Henderson, who was kind of written out of our lineup, got to end his career on a really good note, and he stepped up and played tremendous for us. So a lot of positives. Those guys that were hurt, I think some of the stuff that's going to be positives for them down the road is, how to handle this adversity and
right.
that, there really is a lot more to life than hoops, and I think when it's taken away a little bit, they realize that, and I'm just so glad and happy for those seniors that they were able to come back and play a few games in their career because it was really hard looking at them when the doctor said that their season was over, and they both came back before they were medically cleared and took a little bit of risk on themselves, and I just couldn't be more proud of those two.
You talked about that great run at the end of the season. It ended, which ended up being the last game of the season, was that one possession game, College of Idaho, a massive crowd, just massive. I thought it was an amazing game. The guys played with tons of heart. College of Idaho was very good. And then wouldn't you know it, Mitchell Fink cramps up with a tie game with a minute to go. I mean, isn't that the way the season went?
Yeah, you're right. And That was, first of all, Colby and I talked a lot about that game. It was just a really high-level played game. Came down to, last possessions. And, we made some mistakes early on in that game and giving up some shots where we didn't want to and not guarding some of their actions. But we just fought back every time. I think they got up 11 two different times, and we fought back into it and tied it. And then I know we had a transition three that would give us the lead with about 4 to go, and we missed that. But, yeah, we get down to the end, and Mitch, who's as tough as anybody in the country, he physically can't go. I mean, he's cramping so bad. And it's probably because we played him 40 minutes for 4 straight years, and that never happened until that moment. And, but our guys kept fighting. Scotty came in and ran the point, and Erickson and Harrison hit a couple tough shots. And I believe we were down 2, and we needed 1 stop, and Pickney hit that jumper. And
yep.
The way we guarded it, I wouldn't change it. We forced Pickney into a step back 2. Or maybe a step back 3.
It was a 3, yeah.
And I'll take that from him, that shot. But what he proved is why he was one of the best players in the country, because we guarded him exactly how we wanted to and forced him into the shot we wanted him to take, and he hit it. And that just says a lot about him. I think, Mitchell Fink was 3-time Cascade Conference Player of the Year and got a lot of the credit, but Pickney was incredible. And I am so glad he is out of the league.
The talent was amazing that night. I think that was one of his best games of the year. And he's just an amazing player, period.
He is. He just does a lot on both ends of the court. And, we baited him to shoot that shot 3 or 4 times. And maybe it's dumb on my part, but I think he went 4 for 5, on us going under some of those ball screens and him hitting the jump shot. But just a really well-played game by 2 really good teams.
So you got to talk about that group of seniors. Mitchell Fink, one of only a handful of players in college basketball history to score over 2,000 points, have 850 assists. What has he meant to the program? What was it like to have him in the program?
Well, we may never have another player like him. And I remember the day he came on his recruiting visit and he got into a scuffle, in open gym. And right then I loved his, competitive spirit and the way he fought. And I remember the upperclassmen that he got into it with in the open gym came down to the office afterwards and said, hey, you guys have to sign him. He's a competitor, and he's exactly what we need. And we got lucky, and we were his only college basketball scholarship offer, which, is pretty amazing looking at what he did. And he just got better and better as his career went. He was really a self-made player where if he had a weakness in his game, he fixed it. And he put in so much work, and we would play open gym, and if he wasn't there, the level of play was in intensity dropped. Okay. He just had this level of competitive spirit that I've never seen, and he treated every open gym like it was the CCC tournament title or the national championship game, and I think that's why you got the best out of him every night. He may have missed shots some nights, or he may have missed a defensive assignment here and there, but his intensity level and his competitive spirit never wavered. And I just think that's why when it came down to the end of the game, and he probably took in 4 years 99.9% of our shots at the end of the game, and every single one of our players was okay with that because they saw the amount of work that he put in, every day.
And then a couple other seniors that you recruited right out of high school. Well, Seth, I think, had made a stop somewhere else, but that they spent all 4 years with you. Seth Erickson, in my opinion, one of the greatest pure shooters ever to wear a Hustlin Owl uniform. And then Tyler Heeb, who was just an unsung hero in that program. Yeah,
so Ty, Mitch, and Seth, all 3 of those guys are in the top 15 for us in 1,000 points. So they're all in the top 15 in the career scoring list. And that's out of one class of guys, and that says a lot about them. Seth was probably one of the best pure offensive, efficient scorers I've ever been around, ever coached, ever seen. Last year he shot 55% from the field, 49% from the 3, and 100% from the free throw line. And if you step back and think about that, I mean, that is incredible. Those statistics may never be reached again here in our program. And that is a guy, too, who came in and essentially came in on one leg. He had torn his ACL, and you just had to he had to put in so much work to get to where he wanted to be. When I recruited him a little bit out of high school, and he was mostly just kind of an athlete. He could really jump. Wasn't necessarily a great shooter. And when he tore his ACL and never quite got that full athleticism back, he really transformed his game, and he was the complete opposite player. He was super under control, always played off of 2 feet, really good at leaning and getting guys off balance. And then his ability to spot up, that is when he became special, because if you were in the gym the night that he had, I think, 38 or 36 on Southern Oregon, you saw a level of play that you may not have seen at this level. His ability to shoot the ball off the catch, ability to shoot the ball off the jab or the bounce. I mean, he was a really special player that night, and special for his whole career. He's a great kid, phenomenal student. Really going to miss him. He was just one of those guys that every time he came by the office, you're happy to see him, and just one of those that don't come around very often. And then Ty Heeb is a guy. He's one of my first recruits. He and Scotty Burge were right there, 1-2. I think they committed on the same day. But Ty came in and played a lot of minutes. Is a freshman. Came from a great high school program. And then later in his career, kind of transformed more into that defensive stopper. And he was still a good offensive player. I mean, he got a lot of credit on that defensive end, but he still did a lot of great things offensively. And we felt really great when we had Kyson and Ty, and they could lock down whoever we needed to lock down that night. So when we lost both of them, I think it really showed us how special those two were defensively and how effective our unit was defensively when we had both, Ty and Kyson. So those 3 seniors, I love them. Still talk to them weekly, and just gonna miss them, but appreciate everything they did for this program. There's no way we would have got to 100 wins in 4 years without them.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, those Fink Erickson and Heeb, Owl fans will talk about them for a long time. They generated tons of excitement from that first day they stepped to the program.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the excitement is the perfect word. From that first game they suited up as freshmen, you could tell there was going to be a different energy in the building. And, I never want to say that we got the program back to where it used to be, because, I took over a really awesome opportunity from Coach Miles, who did incredible things here. But, I think they kind of pumped that energy back into it, and they did it with their personalities. They have great personalities. They're great kids, and then just pure will and their competitive spirit, and how much. Well, first of all, they won a lot of games, but how hard they played. I think if you watch us play, we may make some mistakes. We're going to throw the ball away in transition, and we're going to miss some defensive assignments, but we're going to play really, really hard. And I think if you came to watch us in the last 4 years, you would have walked out of the gym saying, those guys play hard, and we don't think too much. We just play and react, and so that's what they brought to the program. And I think that's why the fan base is back here, 1,500 to 2,000 every night.
And before we leave last season, I know you already talked a little bit about Jordan Henderson, but it's a guy who fought injuries his whole career. Because he was injured, it forced the program to recruit over him. He lost playing time, but he always was ready, and he never hung his head and quit. And when you needed him last year with those injuries, he stepped up, and he was a key piece of getting through those 11 games. Yeah,
when those guys got hurt, we would not have went 8-3 without him. Yeah. And you're right, he did get recruited over, and just I felt so bad for the kid. His first week here on campus, he had one of the worst rolled ankles I've ever seen. I mean, it was black and blue up to his knee, and that's not an exaggeration. And then he tore his shoulder and had some other little things. And the great part about Jordan is always had a smile on his face. And, he had his moments here where I know he was frustrated and wanted to play and probably deserved to play at times. And it was just so nice at the end of his senior year, those last 14 games that he was playing, and he was playing 10 to 15 minutes a game, and in making key contributions. I remember, College of Idaho, him hitting a huge three that we really needed, and then on senior night, Jordan always wanted to play out on the perimeter, and we wanted him inside, and kind of a thing we joked about. But on senior night, we let him pop one of the ball screens, and I think it was the last shot of the game, and he hit it, and, the crowd went wild for him. And those are the things I'm going to remember about Jordan, because I know when he hit that shot, he pointed over at the bench, and I just have a lot of respect for Jordan and the way he handled a tough situation here.
Absolutely.
And I hope he feels the same and that he's better off for it.
So now it's a new season, Coach. But your cupboard's not bare. You've got 4 returning seniors. All of them have started at some point. Scotty Burge, who's been a real mainstay of the program. But, with Burge, Steiger, Albright, and Gehrig are all returning. I mean, that's a pretty good core group right there.
Yeah, I think if you look at what we lost, I could understand that somebody, they might struggle a little bit. But if you look at what we're returning, it's pretty impressive. You got Scotty Burge, who, is just steady Eddie, going to give you the same thing every single night. Shot the ball extremely well last year, shot it over 40% from the 3. Just one of those guys. He's just a flat winner. He's a champion. And, then we have Harrison Steiger, who was an 11-point-a-game guy last year, all-conference player. Kellen Gehrig, who's an all-conference level player that was hurt last year. And then Garrett Albright, who was an all-conference player last year. I think he averaged 11 and 6, and one of the tougher bigs in the league. So, you just base it off of those 4 guys right there. Those are four starters, and then Matt Van Tassel. He has 11-point-a-game guy last year, and Kyson Faust. 6 or 7 a game. So we have some really good pieces coming back next year, and a lot of production. But if you're just looking off what we lost, we lost a lot. But we have a saying in this program that, it's in our locker room, be the best team ever. And that kind of goes back to where Coach Miles would always, every single year in the newspaper, would say, this is going to be my best team ever. And he'd be like, well, you just won a national championship and lost the National Player of the Year. But he always felt that way. And as a player, I think you looked at it as, well, when you graduated, well, hey, that's kind of disrespectful. We were pretty dang good. And now as you step back, and Coach Miles was just extremely optimistic, and he was a great motivator. And we wanted to keep that level of, optimism in the program. So we put it on the wall, be the best team ever. And we feel that this year's team could be the best team ever. And we feel that we're better than we were last year and better than the year before that. And does that mean we're going to get there? That's something that will have to be solved at a later date. But the way we use to be the best team ever is we're going to practice better than anyone ever has here. And we're going to guard the ball screens better than we ever have. And we're going to get up more shots than we ever have. And we feel like if we use that, we're always going to give ourselves a chance. And that's just kind of where that came from. And that's how we feel, with this group we have this year.
Well, these seniors, Scotty Burge has been a key piece of the program for a number of years. He's got a lot of playing time. But Garrett Albright last year, I mean, his leap from his sophomore to junior year was amazing. And then Harrison Steiger, he turned into a different person last year when you had all the injuries. And he really brought the energy that, kind of fueled a lot of those victories.
Yeah, Garrett really turned into a man last season, and Harrison as well. And I think what happens when you look at our roster sometimes is, we're deep. We're going to play fast, so we got to play a lot of guys. And the year we went to the national championship game, we legitimately played 12 guys every game. And I think last year we were in that 11 guys until we had some injuries. So what you see is you're going to see a lot of guys averaging in that 8 to 11 range. But when we had the injuries and guys like Harrison and Garrett, Scotty, Matt Van Tassel, when those guys had to play more minutes, their production went up, obviously. And, Matt Van Tassel is a guy that if he plays, last year he played 18 minutes a game. If he plays 30 minutes a game, he's probably 15, 16 a game guy. And Harrison, as you saw, was playing, well, at one point Harrison was playing 38 minutes a game, and he was in that 15, 16 points per game guy. So I think sometimes our statistics can be a little bit tricky just because the guys aren't
Right.
playing a ton of minutes. So that's, going into this year, we're not quite as deep as we've been the past 2 years. So I expect some of the production to go up pretty heavily for a couple guys.
Well, and you have an entire stable of underclassmen. I'm sure you're still working on your roster, but can you talk about some of the young guys and some of your recruits, and start at the point, because you have Scotty Burge, who's a senior, but then the guys backing him up are young.
Yeah. And one guy we forgot to mention was Lockie McKim, who I truly feel is one of the best backup bigs in the league, and he has really come in great shape this year, and he's kind of added his ability to shoot the ball. So he's another guy that he may play 14, 15 minutes a game, but he is a really good player. And then our young guys, we're experienced at every single position. We have a lot of experience at the wing with some depth. We have a lot of experience inside, with some depth. Our trail five, we have a lot of experience there. But the one place is the point guard where we're young. And Cam Osborne was here last year. He's from Prairie High School in Vancouver, Washington. A lot of people probably remember the name Dan Dickow, who played at Gonzaga. He was the all-time leading scorer at Prairie High School until Cam broke it. And Cam is a special player. He's a great athlete for being 6'1", can play above the rim. He's a phenomenal passer. He's a great shooter. So we really expect him to kind of step into that point guard role and take off running. And then we also have Jameson Guerra at Sherwood High School, who led the state of Oregon in assists for 2 straight years. And he's a guy that if we didn't have Cam, we would feel great throwing him in the starting lineup and letting him go right off the bat. So, 2 guys that are young, inexperienced, but we have a ton of confidence in them and their ability to lead us.
What about some of your recruits this year? Do you feel like you had a good class?
Yeah, we feel that this is probably the best class we've had. I think we recruited every position. This group shoots it extremely well. So from the wing position, we have Eric Frazier out of Portland, Oregon, went to Grant High School, who reminds me a lot of Tyler Heeb and Seth Erickson when they were young. He can just shoot the lights out. He's a good athlete. And then we have Keegan Shivers from Wilsonville, who's a similar player, can really, really shoot the ball. He can fill it up in a hurry. And then we have Colton Brownson from Oakland, Oregon, which is near my hometown. And Colton's a 6'5", tremendous athlete, one of the best athletes that I've ever seen at the high school level. And he's injured right now, so he's going to be out for a little bit. But he's going to redshirt this year and just kind of learn the ways and get a little bit stronger. And then we have Jalen Lampman, who's a freshman from Lakeview High School, just near Klamath Falls. And Jalen's 6'1" and is a tremendous shooter. He, so far in practice, watching him shoot the ball has just been something to see. I mean, a kid, we did a shooting drill the other day. He made I think he was near 30 straight. He can really shoot it. And then the last freshman we have is Blake Jensen, 6'7" kid, also out of Sherwood, same high school as Jameson. And Blake is at 6'7" is one of our fastest guys. He's extremely strong. He just looks like a man-child, a beast. He came in really good shape, and he can finish better than most around the rim. I think he's not necessarily a back to the basket big. He's more of, we're going to run the floor and keep him opposite, but he can really, really finish at the rim. He can block shots. We're really excited about Blake and where he's going to be in a couple of years.
So, Coach, a lot of with one division now, there's going to be people from other conferences around the country listening, and I've asked Colby to talk about the conference as well. But can you just give a feel for the Cascade Conference from your perspective? Yeah,
I think this year it's just so challenging by going one division. I'm a rater for each conference has a rater, and that's how we get the national ratings for the NAIA. And when all 21 conferences, I believe it is, submitted their teams, it was impressive. The level of play that we're going to have now, and how difficult it is going to be to just get in the top 25. I mean, we're 23, and I think we're really, really, really good. And that's probably where we deserve to be, is 23. So it's going to be challenging. And I think naturally the Division IIs are going to have to earn the respect. I think in the first poll, I want to say there was 7 or 8 D2s in that poll, and I know some probably feel it wasn't right, but we're the D2 teams are the ones that are coming up, and I think it's going to take a national tournament or two to kind of figure out the strength of each conference and where they're going to fit in terms of how much success each league's going to have. I think the Cascade Conference is obviously a very, very good league. I think in the first poll, I think it was us in the southern states, I think it was the southern states that had the most teams in the top 25. And then if you're including receiving votes, we had 4 with Southern. But I think our league is as good as it's ever been this year. LC State and College of Idaho are exceptional basketball teams. LC State was, a top 6 team last year. They were 29-3 and returned virtually everybody except for Westbrook, who, we didn't get to play them or watch him much, but I know he was a really good player. But what they have returning and how well they're coached, they're a legitimate national title contender. I think College of Idaho, with them going 20-0 last year in the Cascade Conference, they have to be a national championship contender with the way they defend every year and the level of talent of the guys they're bringing in. And then there's us, and I think we're a championship contender as well as Southern Oregon. So you have four teams in our league that have a chance, and maybe there's 5 and maybe there's 6. I know Northwest Christian was young last year and is super talented, and Eddie just does a super job there. So you're looking at our league and comparing it to others. I'm not sure there's a better league. I know if you look at like the GSAC has been historically phenomenal, the Mid-South, the Crossroads, the Southern States, the Gulf Coast, the Red River. I mean, you look at all those leagues and how good everyone is. It's going to be really tough. And for us to say that our league is the best in the country, I don't think it's fair. But if we were still Division II and LC State joined our league, we would have had 3 teams in the top 6. And with Southern, I would believe it would have been 4 in the top 11. And I'm just not sure that's ever happened before for the Cascade.
The basketball all across the country just seems to get better and better and better. It's just amazing.
Yeah, and we got to watch a few games at the national tournament last year before it was canceled. And, I was shocked at pretty much just how good some of these teams were. The one game I was watching, Spring Arbor is defending national champions. And like us, returning most everybody. And I'm not sure what Oklahoma Wesleyan was ranked. I want to say in the high teens, and knocked them off. And that just shows you got a defending national champion with, and you look at us too. We were returning everybody from going to the national championship game, and we finished 3rd in our league. So it's the level of play at the NAIA. I think in the last probably 3 years has taken a huge jump.
So, Coach, I want to ask you about. I want you to talk a little bit about your basketball philosophy, and I want to break it down, offensively and defensively. So we'll start at the offensive side. So, talk about what you're trying to achieve. What is your philosophy offensively?
Well, I think with our program, we probably put more of an emphasis on the offensive end. I think probably just because we've had some super talent on our team. So at that offensive end, we scored a lot of points in the last couple of years. I think based on synergy, which is what we use our film and they break it down, I think we were in like the 98th or 99th percentile for offensive efficiency. So it's definitely a focus for us. Yeah, for us on the offensive end, it really starts with transition. And our goal is to beat you down for a layup. And we're make or miss. We are getting the ball out as fast as we can. Our point guard's catching it, running a bubble or banana. People call it different things, half circle. And we want to beat people up the floor with the pass. So, we're getting out as quick as we can. We're catching the ball in the run, and our wings are running the lanes. And we have shirts made in our program. Like our motto is run the lanes. We're going to sprint the lanes. And we're trying to beat you up over the top with the big guy, or we're hitting the wing and trying to lay it up in transition. So everything for us starts right there. But I think the term sometimes you hear with teams that play fast is run and gun, and that's the last thing we want to do. We want to play really, really fast, and we want to try to score as early as we can, and if we don't have it, we want to score as late as we can. So we're going to try to beat you up for a layup, and if we can't do that, if we don't have an automatic layup in transition, we don't want to force it, we're going to make you work, and we're going to set a lot of ball screens in the half court and and try and score late. So we call it in transition, that layup better be automatic or we're working late. So it's auto or late, and that's kind of what we do offensively. And then in the half court, we want to be really, really unselfish. And I know in the last 4 years we've been in the top 7 in the country in assists per game. We really want to share the ball, and I think last year is probably the first year we got away from really sharing it, just because we wanted to isolate Seth and Mitch, just because they were elite offensive players. But going forward, and we're going to get back to really moving the ball and getting a lot of touches.
So, and then what about at the defensive end? Are you a zone guy, type man-to-man?
Well, I'd love to be a zone guy. I'm just not smart enough. I've seen it. College of Idaho runs a tremendous zone, and I would love to do that. I'm just not smart enough, And so we're man-to-man. We play the pack line defense. We're pretty basic on what we do with ball screens. This year we're doing something a little different, a little more simple. But every defense starts with you got to keep the ball in front of you, and you got to get your butt back in transition. And well, the great thing about the pack line for us is we're not an extremely athletic team. We don't have a ton of quickness, so we don't really necessarily have any help and recover. We're already in help with the pack line, and we're forcing the ball middle and trying to keep that ball out on the perimeter and taking away open threes. But I think what you're going to see this year with us is we're going to be a little bit more aggressive on the defensive end, just because we're a little more athletic than we've been. But for us, we want to be tough. We do not, last year I think we were first or second in rebound margin in the country. We do not want to give up offensive rebounds. We want one shot, and we want to get out of there and get out in transition. And the one thing I didn't mention on the offensive end is we really want to beat people up on the offensive rebounds. We usually send 4 to the glass and 1 guy back, and we're going to take our chances with getting beat in transition. But we feel that if we can get up, our goal every game is 10 offensive rebounds, and if we can get 10 offensive rebounds, we like our chances.
So, Justin, you mentioned 23rd in the nation in the initial rankings, 3rd in the conference behind 2 excellent teams. What are going to be the keys for the Hustlin Owls this season? What's going to have to happen for you to have a good season?
First of all, I'd love to stay healthy. And, last year we saw how detrimental that can be, and never again will we take for granted our health. And number one thing is we're going to take care of our bodies a little bit better, get in the weight room a little bit more. I think this year we have to shoot the ball really well. With losing the firepower that we did, the isolation game that we did with Seth Erickson and Mitchell Fink, I think our perimeter game is key. And so far, in practice, in some of our 5-on-0 stuff, we've really, really shot it well. And in some of our shooting drills, does that translate to the game? It's hard to say. But, with that said, we want to shoot it well because we really feel good about our inside game. I think Garrett is, he turned into a man last year. He put on more weight this year. He's really getting tough on the block. I think Lockie McKim, came back. He's definitely looking better than he ever has. And Matt Van Tassel also on the block. And then, we have guys like Kyson Faust, Kellen Gehrig that can really post from that guard position. So, kind of that old school inside out. They're both going to complement each other well. So those are just 2 things that really have to happen for us this year. And then lastly, like it is with any other game, you got to get out there and compete. And with the talent that we have, I feel that if we get out there and compete every night, we're going to have a chance. And then it just comes down to who's making shots and who's executing.
Justin, I appreciate you being on the show. Thanks for taking all the time. Wish you best of luck, obviously, throughout the season, and hopefully I'll see you soon.
Yeah, and thanks again, Bill, for everything you do. Appreciate you having me on, the rest of the guys in our conference and all over the country. I enjoy listening to them, especially with us merging divisions, being able to hear, some of the opinions and, philosophies from all over the NAI. It's been really neat to hear it, so thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. There are some amazing coaches around the country. I really enjoy talking to them.
Yeah, there are. The NAI is great basketball. It's phenomenal. It continues to impress me, and with us merging divisions, I think it's the best thing that could have happened for the NAI.
Okay, thank you very much, Coach.
Okay, thank you.